For decades, Keanu Reeves has been Hollywood's quiet enigma, a man loved by millions, yet never truly understood. He's known for kindness, humility, and grace in an industry that often rewards the opposite. You'll never see him caught in scandals, throwing tantrums, or chasing headlines. To fans, he's the embodiment of peace, but even the calmest souls carry scars. And behind Keanu's gentle smile lies a story he's kept buried for years. Now, at 60, Reeves has finally admitted that there was one person in Hollywood he truly hated. Someone who tested his patience, betrayed his trust, and pushed him closer to walking away from the industry he loved. For decades, he kept silent, refusing to name names, avoiding confrontation. But as the years passed, that silence began to weigh on him. And when he finally opened up, what he revealed shocked even his closest friends. It wasn't about jealousy, money, or fame. It was something far more personal. It was about respect, betrayal, and the kind of cruelty that cuts deeper than any critic's review. So who was it? The co-star he could never forgive? The director who humiliated him? Or perhaps a Hollywood insider who tried to destroy his image? Stay with us, because what Keanu Reeves finally confessed will completely change the way you see one of Hollywood's most beloved men, and prove that even the kindest hearts have their breaking point. In an industry built on ego and pretense, Keanu Reeves was always the outsider. Born in Beirut, raised between continents, and marked by tragedy early in life, he entered Hollywood without the privilege, arrogance, or safety net most stars enjoyed. He was different, quiet, observant, almost painfully humble. People called him Hollywood's monk, because while others chased fame, Keanu seemed to drift through it. But that calm exterior came from pain, not peace. He had already learned that people often wear masks, and in Hollywood, those masks rarely come off. When Reeves first found success in the late 80s with films like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, he was labeled as goofy, even simple-minded. Many powerful insiders mocked him behind his back, but Keanu ignored it, focusing on his craft. It wasn't until the mid-1990s, when he became a household name, that he met the person who would ultimately test every ounce of his patience. That person was a co-star, charismatic, admired, and outwardly kind. But behind the scenes, Keanu saw a different face. During filming, this actor constantly undermined him, mocking his method, laughing at his dialogue, and belittling him in front of the crew. Reeves, being who he is, didn't fight back. He would simply nod, smile, and walk away. But inside, something began to burn. He later admitted in a rare interview that this was the first time he truly felt hatred in Hollywood. It wasn't anger, he said softly. It was disappointment, the kind that makes you question who you are. Insiders say this co-star, jealous of Keanu's growing fame, spread rumors that Reeves was slow, untrained, and undeserving of big roles. Studio executives even pressured Keanu to respond publicly, but he refused. Instead, he retreated further into himself. "You don't feed fire with fire," he once said. "You wait for it to burn out." But deep down, he never forgot. That experience hardened him. It changed how he viewed Hollywood. He began to understand what others had warned him about, that behind the applause, there were always knives waiting. It was the first time Keanu realized that kindness could be mistaken for weakness, and that in Hollywood, decency often made you a target. As Keanu's fame exploded in the late 90s, the weight of Hollywood began to press harder on him. With Speed and later The Matrix, he had gone from a quirky underdog to one of the most bankable stars in the world. Yet behind the scenes, that same co-star, the one he had quietly despised, still haunted his memory. Not because of what was said, but because of what it revealed about the industry itself. Hollywood, Keanu realized, wasn't about talent or truth. It was about dominance. The loudest voices ruled, and the kindest hearts were often dismissed as weak. For years, he stayed quiet, letting the rumors roll off his back. But every interview, every red carpet smile, hid a deeper truth. He had learned to protect himself not with anger, but with silence. The tension between Reeves and that actor grew when their paths crossed again in the early 2000s. Both were considered at the top of their game, both sought after by major studios. A director, unaware of their strained history, even tried to cast them in the same project. Keanu turned it down immediately. Friends said he simply looked down and said, "I've already shared the stage with that kind of person once. Never again." What made it worse was the hypocrisy. The person who had once humiliated Keanu was now publicly praising him, calling him a rare soul in this business. To outsiders, it looked like reconciliation. But Keanu knew the truth, and it was Hollywood politics. A performance for cameras. And for a man who built his life on authenticity, nothing felt more poisonous than pretending. Over time, Reeves came to understand something painful but freeing. Hatred wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was quiet, deep, and unspoken, not about vengeance but about letting go of trust. In a later conversation, a journalist asked him if he ever hated anyone in Hollywood. Keanu paused for a long moment and replied, "Just one, but I wish I didn't have to." Those who knew him best said the moment defined a turning point. He started refusing interviews that asked for gossip. He stopped attending many high-profile events. He began riding the subway instead of limousines, showing up alone to award ceremonies and donating much of his salary to crew members in hospitals. For Keanu, kindness became his rebellion. The betrayal had hardened him, yes, but it also gave him clarity. He no longer cared about competing with egos or winning studio favor. He cared about peace. The same man who had once been mocked as too quiet had learned the power of restraint. Still, those who worked closest to him noticed a change. There was a distance now, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. He would greet everyone with warmth, but rarely let anyone in. He forgave, one director said, but he never forgot. In time, the world moved on. His films broke records, his image became iconic, and the same Hollywood that once doubted him now worshipped him. Yet for Keanu, success never erased the memory of betrayal. When asked years later if he'd ever work with that person again, he gave a small smile and said, "Some doors don't need to be reopened." It wasn't revenge he wanted. It was peace. But peace, he had learned, sometimes comes only after confronting the ghosts you wish you'd never met. The fallout from that early betrayal didn't just affect Keanu's career, it shaped his entire outlook on life. Behind the calm exterior and soft-spoken voice, there was a storm that never truly passed. Friends and co-stars began noticing how Keanu would often withdraw after a movie wrapped, disappearing from the spotlight for months, sometimes even years. He wasn't running away from fame. He was running away from the kind of people it attracted. The actor he despised had once been seen as a mentor, a guide through the chaos of early stardom. But that illusion shattered quickly. As the years passed, Keanu began to see the dark underbelly of Hollywood. The greed, manipulation, and the way people could wear kindness like a mask. It was this realization that turned admiration into quiet hatred. Those close to him say that one night during a small dinner party, Keanu opened up about it. He didn't name the person, but his words said enough. "He taught me something," Keanu said, "that not everyone in this town is who they seem. Some smile at you just to find a way to step on you." The guests sat in silence. They knew this wasn't gossip, it was grief. Because for someone like Keanu, who valued honesty above everything, deception was the deepest wound. It was around that time that tragedy struck, the loss of his daughter, then his partner and later close friends. Life hit him harder than most could imagine. Yet through it all, he never lashed out. The bitterness that could have destroyed him instead turned into wisdom. He learned to see through people, to spot the ones who were genuine and the ones who were only there for the cameras. Many say that's why Keanu prefers working with crew members over celebrities. He spends breaks eating with stunt doubles and lighting technicians, not the big-name stars. He's seen what fame does to people, and he's seen how it turns kindness into competition. That actor he once hated became, in many ways, the embodiment of everything he didn't want to become. Still, the story doesn't end with anger. There came a moment, years later, when fate brought them face to face again. It was at a film festival, the air thick with industry gossip and artificial smiles. The man walked up to Keanu, offered a handshake, and said, No hard feelings, right? Keanu's response stunned everyone nearby. He simply smiled, shook the man's hand, and said, "There never were." Then he walked away. But those who knew him understood the truth. Forgiveness didn't mean friendship. It meant freedom. From that day on, Keanu seemed lighter, more at peace. He no longer needed to hide the pain. He had turned it into purpose. Whether through quiet charity, moments of compassion for strangers, or his simple, humble lifestyle, Keanu became the opposite of what Hollywood expected. And maybe that's why audiences love him so much, because in a town filled with ego and deception, Keanu Reeves remains the rare soul who survived it all without losing his humanity. But still, the mystery lingers. Who was the actor that nearly broke him? Who was the one man in Hollywood that Keanu Reeves, of all people, could never truly forgive? The answer, as he would later admit in a rare, candid interview, was more shocking than anyone imagined. For decades, Keanu Reeves kept that chapter of his life locked away, refusing to name names, refusing to let bitterness define him. But when he turned 60, something changed. In a rare, unguarded moment during an interview, the question came again, the one he had dodged for years. The interviewer asked softly, "Is there anyone in Hollywood you truly couldn't forgive?" Keanu paused. He leaned back, eyes distant, almost as if he was watching old film reels play inside his mind. Then he said quietly, "Yeah, there was someone. A person I trusted when I was young. Someone who showed me what this business can really do to people." The studio fell silent. There were no bright smiles or rehearsed answers, just the truth, raw, painful, and human. He didn't reveal the name outright, but he said enough for people to guess. Fans pieced it together. It was an actor from one of his earliest films, someone older, powerful, and respected in the industry. Someone who had treated him like a naive kid on set, mocked him behind his back, humiliated him in front of the crew, and spread false stories that nearly derailed his career. That betrayal wasn't just personal, it was professional sabotage. Studios began doubting Keanu's seriousness. Some directors labeled him difficult, not because of anything he did, but because of whispers from that same actor. It took years, and the success of Speed and The Matrix, for Keanu to erase that stigma. So when he said hate, it wasn't about anger or vengeance. It was about the pain of being crushed by someone you admired. In his words, it's not hate the way people think of it. It's disappointment that never goes away. After that interview, speculation exploded. Social media lit up with guesses, theories, and debates. Some claimed it was a legendary action star. Others thought it was a beloved dramatic actor from the early 90s. But Keanu never confirmed. He refused to name him, not because he wanted to protect the man, but because he didn't want to poison the world with more negativity. In fact, he ended the conversation with a statement that silenced everyone in the room. "The best revenge is peace. I don't need the world to know his name. I just needed to stop carrying it." That line spread like wildfire across the internet. It wasn't just an answer, it was a lesson. Even in hate, Keanu found a way to teach forgiveness. He showed that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your spirit. Today, at 60, Keanu Reeves stands as one of Hollywood's last true gentlemen. No scandals, no ego, no bitterness. He's the quiet rebel in an industry built on noise. The man who once tasted betrayal now gives back to others who face the same pain, quietly funding hospitals, children's charities, and struggling filmmakers. Maybe that's the real secret behind his lasting fame. Not the roles, not the franchises, but the heart behind them. The man who once carried hate turned it into strength. And though he never said the name aloud, maybe it doesn't even matter anymore. Because in the end, Keanu Reeves didn't just survive Hollywood. He transcended it.